Tuesday, after the Labor Day, the students had their first full day at school. We were very happy to have them back. They seemed to be happy. They came with big smiles, and of course the parents had bigger smiles. Our first selectman was with us. Ellen was with us that first day to greet the children. There's a nice hum in the building. Our teachers were at school the week before, many of them several weeks before, preparing for the start of the new year. There's a lot of ongoing professional learning that takes place in any good school organization. So we had 3 days before the children started. And even yesterday, the teachers were there as a group until 5 o'clock. Next week, they'll be there till 5:30, again with follow-up professional learning. A lot having to do with our new state-mandated, board-approved evaluation plans. So we're very pleased with the start of school. We have a good challenge. We have a lot of families moving into Woodbridge. Our anticipated enrollment was 725. We're up to 772. Our kindergarten classes have increased. I mentioned this at the last meeting. Again, when the budget was put together, we anticipated 75. I stretched it to 80. We have, as of today, 117 children. Again, a lot of children from new families coming in. I've tried to interview as many of the new families as possible. And it's not a secret. It has happened in past years. The families are coming for a good education system and, of course, of a wonderful town here. So we decided, looking at the numbers and how they were increasing each week, we had to make an executive decision to add another kindergarten class, and that's a teaching assistant with it. Because of staffing changes, we have our finance committee and there's representation from the finance committee and so on, so we're very transparent with our numbers. Fortunately, our decision was based on what's needed for children, but then we were able to, looking at some savings with staffing changes and still some savings left over from our early retirement, we were able to cover those costs. So we don't have to come back to the town at this point with that. And I know, now I don't know if we're ready for the second part or if...
We're not ready for the second
okay,
part.
so, well, let me stop there and see if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Dr. Stella?
I would just like to say, Dr. Stella, that I know that there are significant budget impacts when you make the kind of decision that you're talking about in adding a class, but from my point of view, kudos to you for doing a courageous thing. It's the right thing for the school and it's the right thing for our community. And I'm very proud to be a part of this town for that reason.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Woodbridge is a town that values education. There's no two ways about
Absolutely.
it. And this would not have been possible, by the way, unless we had, so like the story of Stone Soup, a whole community of people working around the clock, because we had scenario planning, but our final decision was made the Friday before Labor Day. So we had people working around the clock over that weekend to make sure that the children had their class ready on Tuesday. What we did not want to happen was children going with another teacher and being with them for a period of time and then having them to come back. I'm here with Margaret Hamilton, who's the chair of the school board, and the school board has been very supportive with this as well. So.
Margaret, did you want to add anything?
No, Dr. Stella always does a great job. The school really is busy, and like always, the kids come back. It really adds magic to the school. And the school looked beautiful, the grounds looked beautiful. Thank you to the town for all the support. We have the ice cream socials happening on a brand new asphalted area that used to be, kind of a trip on the next route and, a piece of asphalt. So it's wonderful, and we appreciate everything the town does, and the kids came back to an amazing school year. The physical plant, the ground, and of course the staff. So thank you.
I'd like to also reiterate what Dr. Stella said about the parents. All of the new parents that I met, as well as the returning parents, were so delighted with Beecher Road School. And it does, I think it's pretty clear that is one of the most attractive features for young families about Woodbridge and why they move here. And it's a tribute to you, Dr. Stella, and Margaret, to the board. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you very, very much. We extended an invitation to everyone if your meeting ends early. The children give us a good excuse to come together. There's the annual ice cream social sponsored by the PTO. You will see hundreds of families, a multi-generational, multicultural group of people there children of all sizes and ages and adults too, just enjoying themselves on the 43 acres of the campus. So I'm gonna go change into my Beecher Road School shirt later and just get back there for some chocolate ice cream. If you're able to join us, please come. The last, let's see.
Last call, last
It
scoop.
ends at 7:30.
7:30. All right, talk fast, everybody.
Mr. Vice Chair, 7:30.
Join us. It's a lot of fun.
I have one question for you.
Sure, of course.
With the influx this year, the
Yes.
larger number than anticipated, do you have a feel, or has anyone given you some kind of clue as to what you're looking at next year? Do you think we're looking at another larger group than normal coming into the kindergarten class?
Of course, that's a good question. Of course, we'll do a very thoughtful analysis of this here. My reaction at this point here is that yes, we will, because in my budget presentation, which I try to highlight, was the one variable that demographers can't deal with is housing. Who's going to downsize? Who's going to sell, and so on. But there are, and then also talking with a demographer who works with many districts in Connecticut. This is a very attractive district to come to. So I believe that there's housing, not new housing, but that people do downsize and so on. So my sense is, interviewing the parents, I think people are going to be looking for quality education, and so my sense is yes. We've been watching it over the past few years. So and our registers have been 19, 20, 21. This year we went up to the 24 and just about the 25 mark, which is just too high. But we'll give it more thoughtful analysis before we come back with that.
As we move to the second item on the agenda, that will be an update on the Beecher Road School building project. And I just wanted to mention the purpose of this update will be Dr. Stella and Jeff Kaufman, who is the chair of the Beecher Road Building Committee. They've been doing yeoman's work, has the rest of the committee. Next week, on Tuesday, the 17th, there'll be a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the Beecher Board of Education for a thorough briefing on the building committee's report and recommendations. And I thought it would be important today for our board just to have some background and context setting. This is not a time to get into the details about the plan. Really, I would urge you to keep questions just to questions of clarification. And if there are issues that you think are come out of the presentation, we can be sure they're addressed next week. But I thought it would really be helpful to new members to hear something about how we got here and why we have this building committee. And I think for returning members as well, it's not something that you hear every day, so it might be good to just regroup a little bit on what's been happening. So with that, Dr. Stella and Jeff, do you want to come up together? We'll start with Dr. Stella.
Good evening. I wore this for you, Ellen. I know.
Well, you're sitting with Dr. Stella.
Well, that is true. I would look really bad.
Okay. Beecher Road School is a jewel of a school. I've been in many districts, many schools throughout my career, and it's really a prize built on the shoulders of the giants, the educators that have been here before, and the parents and so on. Has so much to offer academically. I'm doing the CMT presentation on next Tuesday. Not that it's the end all, but we really hit a grand slam home run with that. It's a top performing school nationally. I came back from China. It has an international attraction too, that people want to come here. Social emotional development of children, there's a lot of emphasis on that. The physical wellness of children, there's a lot of emphasis. So it's off the charts in many ways, and it's not a surprise because, again, Woodbridge values education. As a superintendent, I owe it to you to share my thoughts with you. The physical plant is starting to affect I believe, or can affect the quality of education at the school. It's 50 to 60 years old in many parts of it. It's aching, it's crying out for help and repair. The town has done a wonderful job. I think it's for past 3 years, the town has organized first a larger building committee of over 24 well-intentioned, highly talented citizens, many of them architects, engineers, contractors, lawyers, members of the different departments. And with so much expertise, And there was a consensus that something has to be done at the school. And trying to weigh that with, well, what can the town afford? And then there was a smaller committee designed to look at, well, what's really necessary with that, the energy and things of that sort. So how can we do it? A new school could cost, I don't know, $60, $70 million. But what I saw with this committee of well-intentioned citizens was, how can we help our children, our school system, and the town too, without putting a lot of debt on the town. But so now we're at the point where there's going to be an important meeting next week, and we look forward to attending that. I'm urging the different boards to support this upgrade, and I'm urging the citizens of Woodbridge to support it. Beecher Road School is a school that serves our children, but it also serves the community, and there's recreation programs are very expansive, comprehensive. We have a swimming pool there, so it's a community building. And what's happening with it? Well, there's uneven heating. We have to move children from class to class at times during the winter. You could have a 6th grade wing where one part goes down, and that means 6 classes are down. Some of the parts they don't make them anymore. So you have to, Greg Cooler, our facilities director, who knows how to fix about just anything, had to do a national search for a part to get in. And what do you do with the children in the meantime? Now, even in the cold winter months, there are some classes where it's too hot, because the controls are so uneven that to get heat somewhere else, you have to make it very hot in one place. We're concerned about the air quality, and proactively concerned about the air quality in certain parts of the building. But again, Greg Kula and his staff, they're constantly repairing things, and it's hard to keep up with it, from one end of the building to the other. The noise level is a problem with some of the heating units. We've brought this to the attention of the various boards. Our boilers are in bad shape. I don't know if they'll last through the winter, and that's something that's being considered and talked about right now. So I'm not trying to cry wolf or anything like that. The town committees have been looking at this in a very serious way with a lot of expertise, bringing in a lot of consultants. We rank in the top 20%, 5% academically in the country. As far as heat loss, we rank in the bottom 20%. So money is going out of the framework of the building every day. I care a lot about this town. I've been here for 8 or 9 years. Many of you have been here. Families have been here for, of course, much longer. But these are basic repairs, HVAC and the frame of a building, and it would be a tremendous cost later down the line. This is going to have to be done sometime. You would get more for our money. It'll serve the educational needs of our children if it's done now. And also we worry about other things. Education in America, it's wonderful. It's open to all children. And the children, whatever their physical needs or special needs are, they have a right to be educated in their neighborhood school, which is Beecher Road School. That's by law, and it's the right thing to do. But we have children who are medically fragile, so don't think we don't worry a lot about that too during certain times of the year and how we have to move them. And some very often, not very often, but many times there are many situations where we had to put air conditioning units into a room because of mandated needs of a child or children. That's a very expensive way of doing things, it's so I urge that we appreciate all the effort that has gone into it. Jeff Kaufman, an architect, is the chair of the current town committee, and he represents the dozens of very talented citizens who have contributed and know a lot more technically about what we need there. But from an educational point of view, I can say that it is starting to affect the educational quality, or it could affect the educational quality of our program. Okay. Jeff, do you want to?
Thank you. There was a building committee set up by the Board of Selectmen, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And there were probably a couple dozen people on that committee. And there was a fair amount of money spent with consultants and things like to figure things out. And the project that they approved and recommended was a project that cost almost $20 million. And so in response, the town, realizing that there are problems at the school that need to be addressed, but they didn't really believe that $20 million project would fly that easily for the people in town. So the suggestion was to come up with this new building committee, and the charge was to either pare the project down or possibly look at it and phasing it over two or three phases. The building chart, I'm not going to read this whole thing because I would be bored, but the original building committee was set up in November of 2011. The charge was amended in December 2011 to include the whole pool area, that whole part of the recreation, that end of the building. And then in January of 2013, it was amended to look at the security issues at the school for the safety of the children. So the new building committee, we got together and we decided that our priorities should be to pay attention to, our top priority should be the school building and the envelope. And our feeling was that if we updated the mechanicals, which were decades old and having a lot of problems, and we could tighten up the roof, tighten up the windows, tighten up the mechanical system, and therefore we'd have a good solid base in order to do the other phases on. As we were doing this analysis, we were actually coming up with better numbers than what the initial numbers were, and there was thought that we could actually get this through, possibly it should be done in a one-shot deal. We engaged the services of John Rice from AKF, it's an engineering firm out of Stanford, to evaluate the mechanicals in the envelope. And with his guidance, he reviewed the building, went through all the mechanicals, and wrote specs for what should actually be put in there and what needed to be replaced. The project went out to 4 firms to give us bids. We whittled it down to 2. The 2 finalists were Honeywell and ESG, and eventually the committee picked ESG. The project projections now are the school is coming in, the building itself is coming in at approximately $10.5 million. It actually it does have all the mechanicals in the envelope, things that we talked about, but then through some coercing and threats from the Board of Education, we've added in some other things, but things that are needed, so we agreed with them. The pool work by itself is coming in at approximately $2 million, and then the security, the way it stands right now, is coming in the range of like $600,000 to $900,000. Early on in the process, actually, the former building committee and this building committee, we did go out and look at the alternate idea of building a new school, and we were told that a new school is a minimum of $60 million. So we decided to keep moving forward on working with the existing facility. We've, up until July, we had Greg was on the Board of Selectmen, so he was upkeeping the Board of Selectmen. Andy Esposito was reporting back to the Board of Finance. We also have Sheila McCreven, a former board member, as well as Jason Feinbecker and myself on the building committee. We've pulled in Dr. Stella, Al Pulo, and Margaret. So they've been attending all our meetings as well. And to be honest with you, the committee actually wouldn't have gotten as far as we did without everybody cooperating. We did give a presentation with AKF and ESG to the Board of Ed in December of 2012, and it was approved by the Board of Ed by a vote of 5-1. And as Ellen explained, next Tuesday we have a joint meeting, and I really what the building committee is going to be looking for coming out of that meeting is some kind of an authorization to move forward and go out for public meetings and get input from the public and really explain what's going on with the project. So.
Thank you. So are there any questions, just for clarification, on background or context? Everybody?
Just one simple one, the
Yes.
security, I couldn't hear you. How much was the cost? Was it 600 to 900,000?
Yes.
Thank you, I just couldn't hear you.
The whole, I
That's
will
it.
tell you, the budget, I mean, we've got these numbers, we're still going back and forth on massaging, everything, the whole project, actually. And so we're trying to find some give and take, and so we're working on it. The idea of going out into the public is to talk about it. We figure we don't have to have a definite number until we get the full response from Finance Director, and we actually get to a referendum, so.
I have questions for next week, but I do have one question for this week. Dr. Stella made mention of the boiler, so it's really, the question's twofold. I'm assuming that a new boiler system is part of the project,
Yes.
number one. But since the project isn't going to take place, at least for some time, not this winter, did I hear you correct? Is the boiler system at the level where it could conceivably go down this winter? And if so, what would be the consequences? How long to fix it? What would we do? Did you say that the boiler system was at a point where it could go this winter?
Well, you know, as I said at the last meeting, I'm not a boiler expert, but all the feedback that we are getting, we do have a service company that's been working with us for over 10 years, and we do have a lot of expertise around, and we are working with the town and with the board in analyzing the situation. So as a superintendent, of course, a good superintendent has to be a good worrier. We have 750 children at the school, 135 adults and so on. And I know the problems we've had with the two boilers. On very cold days, you might need two boilers working at the same time. Now, could we get by with one boiler? Well, my wife and I went to Atlantic City for a weekend. I don't go often, but we went and we had a good time. But I would never bet on the children at the school.
I wonder where that was going.
So the one boiler, could we get through with one boiler? Those are not the greatest boilers. I think we acknowledge that. And we have two firms looking at it to see if any repairs can be done on it, but the news is not good. Al Pulo is with us here. He took a picture of, and I wish I could show it to you. When you look at it, you say, wow. So we have some experts looking at it. The news is not good. We're working with the town side. We're meeting with the building committee on Friday. We're going to have to come up with some answers very soon as far as whether.
So I guess my question is,
Yeah.
if the news is not good, if a boiler, I think you said last week there was a potential the boiler would not operate this winter. If it were to go, do we have contingency plans? What would have to happen if this was winter time and that boiler?
If you had any school, if you had one boiler and it went, then what are some of the things you could do? You could have a portable boiler brought in, but it takes time to do that. It's not a question of picking up a phone, and it costs a lot of money to do that too. Then you have to say, where does it go and what environmental effect does it have? Do you put it right in front of a first grade class window, and how do we hook it up and so on? But I have my director of facilities here who might want to add something to it. I don't know. Greg, do you want to say something to it?
Previously, we have explored bringing in a rental boiler, and at this time, the time that I went through the whole thing, because of the inboard boiler room, would be very difficult to hook up, and the size that we need would be very expensive to bring in. Even like the first month would be like $50,000 to $60,000. And that didn't include like the hookup. And what we're possibly looking at now is replacing the one sometime this year that's inside. We're exploring all different options. The problem with running on one boiler, like Dr. Stella says, it's a gamble. If that one goes down, we have no backup.
So if the boiler
You know-
went, would we be looking at a shutdown, I guess is my last.
No, actually, the building committee's actually talked about that. And so we already have a system in the new project. That's already been spec'd. So we're talking with the town as far as that would be the system that's spec'd. There's a certain lead time and as far as ordering things, but everything's already been designed. So I don't know anything about the finances. I'm just trying to make sure there's heat. So in other words, if we're planning ahead, we know there's kind of a potential problem here, then we could be getting these things and order them so that they could actually be ready to be hooked up, and then there's like a pretty minimal time that the school would be shut down. The other thing, we have an uninsured consultant that we've had go to the school, Andy Esposito, and so he's going to come back and give me some feedback as far as whether the system that's there can actually be repaired.
Well, to Tony's point though, it sounds like on Tuesday, a discussion about timing and how that stuff might all work would be very helpful. That's what I'm hearing you say.
That's-
Because it's part of that
We
project.
need to hear that piece.
Right.
If we can start that part of it, if it, I mean, what I'm hearing is it's possible the school could
I hear what you're saying.
be shut down.
You'd have a lot more ice cream socials if you didn't have a boiler, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
But I want to reassure the parents too,
Right.
because this is the kind of town that there's so much interest, people are right on top of it.
Right.
And there's scenario planning, so I know the children are not going to suffer. We're going to do whatever's right to keep that place humming and good.
To hear on it.
Right.
Thank you. Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Now it's up to the board if we adjourn and go to the ice cream social, or we continue with the agenda.
That would be wonderful, I'll tell you.
What the flavor.
We didn't consider holding the meeting there.
Thank
you both very much. Well, the next item on the agenda is a discussion of an amendment to the existing town plan of conservation and development with respect to farmland preservation. Jeff, in your capacity as Chair of Town Plan and Zoning, would you address this issue, please?
I'm assuming, does everybody have this?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to stand there and read it.
Yes, we do have
It's
it.
your call.
Yes.
So what this is a request, it's a formality, to amend the existing plan of conservation and development. Right now, the plan of conservation and development, the way buying up open space used to be addressed is by calling it open space. And then someone got clever and said, really, if it's not called farmland, then you can't have this money. So, and so we don't actually talk about in our present plan of conservation development anything about farmland. We talk about open space. We're referring to the same thing. So by amending that document, the Conservation Commission feels that they can go out and look for potential state money. The new plan of conservation and development would include this anyway, because now it's the PC thing to do. So, but that won't actually be ready for at least a year. I don't know if there's any money up there, but certainly we should let people try to find it if there is. So.
Thank you. Just to remind the board, this is the issue that Jim Urbano came to speak about. He started a plan and zoning, and it was the sense of the board, I think, was very supportive of the concept, but we all agreed that it was within the jurisdiction of TP&Z. So now that process has been followed. Are there any questions for Jeff?
If a selectman person has a question about, or some comments about the proposed amendment, is it proper to bring them to you with town planning and zoning, or should I just speak with you, or just have a couple of?
You can.
What's best?
I would
What's the
send
proper
them to
protocol?
Christine and let her disperse them to the rest
And
of the.
just shoot her an email and stuff about a couple of questions I
Yeah,
had
you
about
can
it.
copy on it if you want, but
Okay,
yeah,
I will.
because it's supposed to go to public hearing, and there's no
Okay.
final wording until it's
Right.
voted on the end of public hearing.
Okay.
So there's plenty of time to.
Okay.
So what is the total
Thank you.
process here? It goes to back to your.
It starts at planning and zoning, and then it goes out. We have there were 65 days to go to Scrog Regional and to come to the Board of Selectmen to review it and say, yes, we agree with this or we don't. Then it goes back to planning and zoning, and we hold a public hearing, which is going to be at our October meeting.
Okay, so from the Christine's letter and the statute allows us to have hearings.
We can have a hearing. and we need to endorse or reject the proposal. I would like to make a motion this evening that we endorse the proposal as presented to us. And since the public hearing has been scheduled by TP&Z, I don't think we need another public hearing, but we could.
Second.
Well, discussion. I'm not quite following this because according to Jeff, it goes to some other agency. I didn't catch
No.
it.
It's already gone to the other.
Oh, it's already done that?
Yeah, in the
Okay.
first 65 days, it went to SCROG, and it
So
comes to
now
Board of
it's back-
Selectmen.
now
and
it's back here.
Right, and planning and zoning, just so we're moving forward, because we have to have a certain time, we've already scheduled a public hearing at our October meeting.
Got it. I missed. I thought it had to go there.
And you know what SCROG is? The Southern,
Not-
is the Regional Council of Governments.
Okay. So it
So-
went there, so now it's back
Right.
here in the corner.
Right.
Okay. So rather than have public meetings, we're just gonna go.
Right, and there will be a.
Well, there'll be a public meeting, but it'll be through planning and zoning.
I was
Right.
talking about through the Board of Selectmen pursuant to the statute.
Right.
We're able to do that. We're not going to do that, and I'm cool.
And
Okay.
Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, this was somewhat time sensitive, either because the money pool runs out, or if I remember when Jim came to us, there was speak of being time sensitive as far as how long we had to apply for this. Is that correct? Is there some time here?
He did say that it was very time sensitive. Our understanding, there's no money. The application that they really wanted to submit for actually should have been submitted a year ago. And Jason actually has brought that to the Conservation Commission. But it's not to say that something I think we should do it. I mean, it doesn't cost us anything. There's no reason not to do it. And so I think we should put it in, and they may be luckier than what we hear down the pipeline. So I'm all in favor of that.
So the motion is to endorse the, sorry, Lawrence.
Like Joe, I had a question about the process. The hearing on October 7th will culminate in the vote by TPZ, or the vote will be in the...
I think it's one public hearing. I mean, if we
And
can,
that's the night of
we can
the-
close the public hearing, or if it's really large and there's a huge group and a big need for more public comment, we can continue it.
But that's the night of your regular monthly meeting.
That's
right?
correct.
And so the vote will happen the same night.
Yes.
So members of the public, residents who might want to contribute, who might not be able to make it that night, should do so ahead of time? Is that...
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
And I would distribute, if there's questions or comments like that, I think they should go through Christine in the land use office.
Anything else? Okay, the motion is to endorse the amendment. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. The next item, which was added to the agenda, is an update from the Country Club of Woodbridge. It was not on the agenda originally because we usually get these updates, we were asked to have the updates regularly once a month, which we are doing now. But since we had the last update at the end of August, the July financials were ready and we had the July report. Ordinarily, we would be getting the July report now. August would not be ready until next month. But in order to keep to the monthly schedule, we asked Jason to come and just give us a quick update on what's been happening this month. Thanks, Jason. Welcome, Deke.
Well, thanks for having me. As Alan said, we don't have any final numbers for August, so these are all still projections, but we're pretty close. As we said a couple of weeks ago, August finished up a pretty strong month. We beat plan by about 350 rounds, which was great, about 6% over prior year as well. While we did not make our budgeted greens fee and cart fee revenue, the big chunk of our budget, we were ahead in pro shop sales, food and beverage sales, membership sales, pool guest fees, kind of all the extra stuff. So those things allowed us to get pretty close to our total revenue budget for the month, as well as I think beat prior year by quite a bit. Right before I came over, I took a look. I think last August we had a $40,000 loss. for the month. So August financials are going to look really good compared to last year, which is great. No surprises on any expenses. We overspent to budget a little bit on food and beverage labor, as well as a little bit on lifeguards, pool, and tennis labor. Some of that's related to lessons. Some of that's related to increased usage at the pool. I don't have the final pool usage numbers yet, but I can tell you that it was another record year, as we said last time. So pool usage is through the roof. So again, we should fall pretty close to plan on expenses and have our first profitable month, which is, I think, very exciting. To continue that trend, looking forward into September, unfortunately, Labor Day weekend was a tough weekend for us. We had, if you can remember, it was kind of humid. There was a threat of thunderstorms every day. I still think there's an opportunity to get the weather guys on the payroll somehow so that we can get them to change the forecast, because it didn't really rain that much all weekend. So we had a pretty tough weekend. That being said, we're still projected to beat budgeted rounds by over 500 at this point for the month of September. It's a soft projection because usually as you get later in the month, you get fewer and fewer rounds because the weather is off. But we'll see how it shakes out. So a good start. We've got just about 500 outing rounds on the books for September. About half of those rounds have already been completed. We had a tournament on Monday. We had a tournament today as well. All the tournaments that we've had so far have been great successes. They've liked the food, they've liked the course, everything's good. So about 500 outing rounds, which is great. We've got a pretty good sized food and beverage only banquet event that'll be under the tent towards the end of the month as well. So that should bring a lot of eyes to the facility. The coordinator keeps saying, have your membership stuff out. I think you're going to get some sales, but it's also going to be a good revenue booster as well. The APR for September remains not quite as good as we'd like it to be. It's still off from budget. However, if we can continue the trend of being ahead in rounds, that should help us on our total revenue goal. The membership number in September will look very strong again. Again, we defer the memberships for pool and tennis over 5 months, May through September. So even though we don't have a lot of expenses related to the pool and tennis courts this month, we'll still have that revenue, so that'll look good. And then our labor should be under as well. We're actually a little bit understaffed, which usually happens this time of year, so it's tough on the remaining crew, but at the same time, it helps out a little bit. At this point, we've turned off the air conditioning into the clubhouse. That'll help save some money. We haven't had to buy heating oil yet, so that's good. But looking ahead to expenses in September, we do have these budgeted, but closing the pool costs about $2,500 each year, about the same to open it. And then we also are going to need to purchase heating oil, service the boiler, and finish closing out the clubhouse. Just as a refresher, when we go into the winter months, we usually set the temperature at about 52 degrees just to maintain temperature, keep it as minimal as possible. I've gotten actually several requests for off-season parties. I still don't think it's enough to warrant keeping the building at 70 degrees and having food and beverage staff and trying to get them in there. So I've been turning down a few of those. But we really just lock everything up, no cleaning service, none of that, and just do our best to keep it open. One quick thing I forgot to open with is we did have, it looks like DPW came by and did some repairs on the parking lot, just right in the front there, and it was a pretty big eyesore, so I just wanted to say thank you to them, and it looks great. The new paving looks great there. So that's kind of a status update of where we stand. Still looking good, much better than last year. Not quite where we want to be yet, but much improved. Golf course is coming back nicely, so condition-wise we're in good shape. And I guess with that, I open it up to any questions you might have.
Yeah, so you'll be back. Correct. August wasn't all that great. September, you're saying it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think when comparing to August of last season, I think you're going to see a very significant increase in 1 year.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Okay. The next item was Sean Rowland, and this was with respect to the request to use the Fitzgerald property for fireworks for Truck or Treat. And Sean has asked to be taken off the agenda. Apparently, all of the approvals that we had required last time, it was just impossible to get them this quickly, so he will not be, he won't be here and won't be looking to do the fireworks at that time.
They're not looking to do the
No,
trick or treat this year?
no, they couldn't. It takes a bit of time, and I think they may be looking for that for next year.
That wasn't,
Oh, I'm
My
sorry.
question was, are they still planning on doing the truck or treat, just not the fireworks? Or is
Oh.
the whole program that night off?
As far as I know, they're planning to do trunk or treat, not fireworks. I haven't heard anything
So-
different from that.
So the only reason he was here was for fireworks, though? I thought
He
he
was
was
to get-
here for truck or treat, so
Right, 'cause
I think I'm getting a little side door here.
I think he was coming for permission for the fireworks.
Well, no, because we had issues on insurance and and police, and all, regarding shutting down the road.
He was only here for fireworks.
So the police issue with
It
Deputy
was a
Stewart
non- It was a
that night?
non-issue. That's
That's
my
not- that's not the way
understanding.
I thought
understood
Deputy
it.
Stewart said if it was gonna be on Halloween night, we would need police coverage, and
We had
the
penny
fire
lane
association
issues
wasn't.
I think it depended on the scope, but if there's anything that requires update, I'll be sure he comes in the beginning of October. I understood from him that he was coming back to talk about the fireworks update, and since they had withdrawn that, he asked to be taken off the agenda. If there's anything else that still requires Board of Selectmen approval, I'll be sure that he's back in October. Okay,
What I'm
anything else?
hearing is if he wants to do truck or treat and shut down the road, it doesn't require our approval.
I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know that they would necessarily shut down the road if they're not doing the fireworks.
Okay.
That
I
may
thought
be
the
the
issue-
issue,
that last year?
right, because last year, I thought the issue is, he said they had 3,500 people show up, and I thought Deputy Stewart was saying 3,000 people even, we need police coverage for
Right.
that.
Well,
So I thought it was
I thi-
about the truck or treat. I mean, I understand he added the fireworks, but if he's expecting, and who knows if they get that crowd
Right.
again, but I thought Deputy Stewart was saying that kind of crowd needs coverage, and because it's Halloween night with Penny Lane, and just more coverage needed as whole.
I understand the question.
So that's
We'll
really
check
what I
with
was-
him and be sure about that.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is Connecticut Conference of Municipalities Prescription Discount Program, and Gina Calabro from CCM is here to describe it and explain it.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I wanted to tell you about the prescription program that Connecticut Conference of Municipalities has been offering to our members, of which Woodbridge is a member of CCM, since September of 2012. This program came about because I spoke with the County Association in New York. The state of New York has been offering this program since 2005. And this is at no cost to the town and no cost to the taxpayers. There are no forms to fill out, there are no age requirements, there's no income requirements. And we did our due diligence. I started looking at this program in February of 2012. We looked at other companies to see if they offered the same kind of program. The reason that we decided to go with, and this was through board approval from CCM, which our board is made up of 30 municipalities as far as for selectmen, mayors, town managers. This was presented to them, and they had agreed that this was a good program to come about with. You have a packet of information that I will go over briefly with you, and then be able to answer any questions that you may have. In your packet, so you know, there's 100 municipalities right now that have signed up for the program. As a matter of fact, I just received Plainville today, which is 101. New Haven will be doing a press conference on Tuesday because New Haven's cards are mailing out next week, along with 8 other towns that will be, actually Waterbury as far as the city, and then 6 other towns that will be mailing out as well. How the program works, and the reason for the program and why it was initiated was there's 11% of Connecticut that is uninsured. They have no medical insurance, they have no prescription insurance. There is another 34% that is underinsured. Underinsured means they have very high deductibles. They could be on Medicare and also be in the donut hole. And those are the people that when they reach a certain level, they have to start paying full price until they reach the next level. It could be for drugs that are not covered under your current prescription plan that you have through an employer. So there's a lot of possibilities into using this program. It is set up corporate-wide with CVS, Stop and Shop, Big Y, Walgreens, Walmart, Target. I know Eckerd Drugs, which isn't necessarily in Connecticut, but this program isn't just available for your residents that are going to be using it in the area. If they travel and they use this card, this is accepted all over the country because, again, it's corporate-wide. There are local pharmacies that are involved in this as well. I supplied the first selectman as well as Mr. Genovese with a copy of the pharmacies all throughout New Haven County that are part of this. So there's a lot of local ones as well. I know St. Raphael's, actually their apothecary there will accept it as well. What we do for the program, and this is part of what we do for the towns, there is no administrative work on the town side at all. ProAct, who is the vendor that we're using, will handle all of that administrative work on their side. And how we do that is, first, there is an agreement, and I will explain that. And I've already passed this on to the first selectman to pass by your town attorney, which we recommend that all town attorneys take a look at. And that is because this card is branded for the town. This will be called the Town of Woodbridge Prescription Discount Card. There is a copy, and we gave you some samples of what we've done for some other towns. This card is mailed to every resident free of charge. There's no charge to you to print these or to mail these out. And how this is done is we buy a resident occupancy list from the post office, and then they are printed and they're stamped and it goes to current residents. So every household and post office box receives a card. They're automatically activated. You'll notice on the card there's also a group number which is assigned by town, because I report out to every city and town in the program monthly how the program is doing. This point in time, our first 5 towns mailed out in September of 2012. As of July the 15th, we have saved residents over $1.4 million in prescriptions savings. They have put through 25,000 claims. What's also nice about this card is it's for pet prescriptions. Many pet owners don't have pet insurance. I know I have 2 dogs and I don't. But if it is a human-based drug, it can't be a canine or a feline drug. It has to be a human-based drug. You can have your veterinarian write you a prescription, and you can take it to a pharmacy and they will fill it. I wanted to make sure that that did work, and I have an employee that works for me that her dog was on phenobarbital. And I asked her to go and ask her vet for a prescription. And of course, what's funny, I will tell you, when you do go to the pharmacy, they will put your last name. So whatever your dog's name is, plus your last name will be on the prescription. But she was paying $45 a month to her veterinarian. When she filled a prescription through Rite Aid, it was $28 a month. So there's the savings in that. Personally, I have used the card myself, and I have prescription insurance through CCM. But there was a medication for my daughter, dermatology medicine, that wasn't covered, and I would have had to pay full price, and I used the card, and I was able to save $15. So there is a 10 to 40% discount on brand names, and there's a 20 to 70% discount on generics. Although I have seen some drugs come up as high as 85% off. I had one resident who I met with, I did a presentation for the senior center in Guilford, and she told me that her $140 prescription she was able to get for $14. So it depends on the drug and the pharmaceutical company, and also the pharmacies. The question has always been, who funds this? And I think it's a very good question, and that the who funds this is the pharmacies. The pharmacies themselves all belong to a company called Restat, which you'll also see on the back of your card. The Restat BIN number is the number that the pharmacies will use. They accept the margins based off because they are participants of Restat. And that's how the program is funded. You may also be aware that pharmacies always have it in the back of the store, and that's the reason is because in their savings that they know account plan, there's a hearing aid and hearing services plan, and there's LASIK surgery. The vision plan, I can tell you that we have looked at there. We have set up a website, and you will see that on the material that I sent. Plus, we supply the town not only with the cards that we mail out. ProAct actually goes and visits every pharmacy, and since there are no pharmacies in Woodbridge, a letter will be sent to all surrounding pharmacies. And as you can see on the map, I believe that all the towns pretty much are surrounding. And I will tell you, I have talked to Ansonia, and I'm expecting their agreement next week. But we will supply you with flyers, and that will be specific to the town. That this way you can hand them out. Most times they've gone to social services or to the senior center, so they can hand that out. We will also supply you with posters. And the reason that I do these as well, this happens to be Newtown's, that we supply these to the pharmacies so that the people that walk in, when ProAct goes around and they visit the pharmacies, they drop off cards to them as well. In the case where there are no pharmacies in a town, we send a letter and let them know that the town is now part of it, so they will expect to see the town of Woodbridge cards at their pharmacies. So this is what but we'll still supply you with this. We will also supply the town with a full box of cards, so that should anyone need a card. The other thing that we have done is we have set up a website called ctdiscountcard.com. At this site, there's a number of things that you can do. One is you can go in and you can print out a card. On this site, there is a drop-down menu, all the towns and cities that are part of this program. You click on there and it will print out the exact card that we have put together for them. All the cards that we have done normally have used the town seal, unless we have some towns in Connecticut that do not have town seals, so we've used other images. You can also do a drug lookup. You're able to go in and put in your drug name, your dosage, how many days you need. You usually purchase a drug if it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And it will tell. The program has done extremely well. In the course of time that we have been doing this, we are now at a year. We have only had 6 instances where a pharmacy had a problem in accepting the card, and what we have found in all those instances was the technician who was processing the card did not understand how to do it. And when that happens, as you'll see on the card, there are toll-free numbers, and this is where ProAct's administration comes in. They are available 24/7. As is Restat, and they answer all those questions. And when when CCM and I take a call, I immediately call ProAct, and they've handled all of those instances immediately. And we even get back to the residents to let them know that we've handled it, and they can go back to use their card. So we've tried to cover all of our bases in what we've done. And as far as the vision, I briefly touched on the vision plan. Lens Crafters, Sears, Walmart, I know that they're all part of this. It's anywhere from 20 to 40, possibly 50%, depending on the frames and the lenses. Interesting story again, I needed to try this out to make sure that these things worked, and my daughter's contact lenses. I called my eye doctor, and they told me that 6 months of her disposable lenses were $150. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this program and see how well it works. I got a year's worth of her disposable lenses for $179. Is the discounts on that? What they ask that you call a toll-free number, because they will put you in touch. They will ask you what it is that you're looking for, what you need, and then they'll put you in touch with the correct participating provider. And that goes the same way for the LASIK surgery as well. And that's primarily the program.
That was a very complete presentation. Are there questions for Gina?
I have a few. I have actually 2. When I open your flyer, your folder, does CCM or ProAct Inc. share personal information? I'm reading the last line. So ProAct doesn't even receive medical information? They basically just take names, sign up people, but don't take their medical information? Or are you receiving medical information?
There's no personal information that's accepted at all, because you don't sign up for it.
Okay.
One card can be used for the entire family, which is why. And if the card gets damaged or they want to print another card, completely different membership number, nothing's accepted. The only just to also answer your question, with the reports that I get, it's no personal information. I just get the report that tells me how many claims were filed, how many cards were used, what the percentage of savings is, and what the dollar savings is, and that's what I pass on to the towns.
And then my second question is the one right below it, can the discount card be used with a prescription? It reads as if I have insurance, I go to pick up my Nexium, I can't use this card. Is that correct?
If you go into the pharmacy and if you have prescription insurance and it's paid through an employer or you're paying for prescription insurance, you're always going to get the best deal through that because those discounts will be higher. But if you go into your pharmacist and you say, I have these two cards and what's the better deal, they will tell you.
Okay, because it reads no, the card can't be used, it's intended for people who don't have insurance.
And that brochure was the original brochure that we did. I always like to put it in because I want to show what the poster and everything looks like. When we launched the program and after we went through it, you can, I mean, there's people, like I said, I've used it myself. Yes.
So it's not just for people, so this is either an outdated flyer or that?
Well, that part of the information, initially when we put it together, my concern was that this really wasn't supposed to be a program for people who were uninsured. What we have found out in the process is there's many of us that have insurance and not everything is covered.
Thank you.
That was my question for number 2, so thank you.
Thank you. No other questions?
I just want to know where the dog's on phenobarbital, but I'm not going to waste time.
Having seizures.
Yeah.
So I will entertain a motion to authorize the first selectman to sign the agreement. Our town council has reviewed it and approved signing.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're now at item number, Well, I think before we begin item number 7, it's a few minutes before 7. So if anyone is here for public comment, we will go to public comment. Cheryl?
Hi, Cheryl Dixon. Earlier in the week, I had sent the first selectman a letter, and I'm here to read that letter just to make sure it goes on record and possibly get some comment from the board. So, dear Ellen, this letter is a follow-up to comments I made during the August 28th Selectmen's meeting. During public comment, I made a suggestion that the board appoint a select person to act as liaison between the town municipal animal shelter and the Board of Selectmen. Effective July 1, 2013, board member who could be available to the shelter officers as well as being able to report issues objectively to the board would improve communication between the shelter and the town. The selectmen would be able to respond to concerns presented not only by the shelter but also by the public. This would represent, in my opinion, an effort by the town to show its residents that there is an open line of communication and that the town officials are once again working with the shelter staff to assure the safety of our citizens while providing a safe haven for the animals placed in its care. Now that the shelter is under the supervision of the Board of Selectmen, may I also suggest that the board visit the facility. I believe it will be much easier to make decisions affecting the shelter once you have seen the building, walked the grounds, had an opportunity to speak with the staff, and visit with the animals in their care. Just as a side note, the Friday before Ed Sheehy passed away, may he rest in peace, I actually had a meeting with Ed and Tony, another volunteer, and Chief Marcucci, and one of the things that was suggested was that there be a tour, if you will, for the Board of Selectmen now that you are overseeing it, because it's really hard to make decisions and even comment on a facility if you've had no knowledge about what's going on there. So, thank you.
Thank you
Cheryl.
very much.
Any other public comment?
Could I suggest that maybe, I'm willing to try to put it together, if we want to do a tour together, or should we go by ourselves, or, I always like to go with a friend, especially there, because they'll prevent me from opening the car doors and taking all the animals and taking them home, so,
You want to go as a pack?
Well,
can we go as a pack, or, whatever,
I was going to suggest in the first selectmen's report later on in the meeting that people visit the shelter. I don't think we need to have my own view is we don't need an organized visit. People's schedules are a little tricky to coordinate, but I definitely think it would be a good idea if everyone went to take a look.
So I need
Is
to
that-
find a friend or two, so call me.
I'll go with you.
Thank you. All right, because I think it would be all good, I think all of us.
If you're gonna go, if you wanna,
We need the hours and.
if you wanna let me know when you're gonna go, I can make sure that, there's an ACO there
That would be-
to.
Of course.
I've been
You
there,
know.
but I'd like
I
to, I
have, but
haven't seen it recently.
I just really
so,
need
yeah.
somebody to prevent me from taking them all home. That's
And
how I do
Tony will give a report on the
Okay.
shelter as part of his
All right.
report.
Okay.
Are we gonna talk about our other concerns in your?
I thought we should talk about it when Tony does his report.
Okay, so
on the,
Tony's report's gonna include the animal control.
Yes.